All right, this is Module 2, Lesson 7. Today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. First thing I have to do before we even start this lesson is we have to talk about how negative fractions can be written. There's 3 ways to write a negative fraction, and this is super important. One way is if we put the negative sign up with the numerator. So if you're writing a fraction a over b, it would be negative a over b. The second way, which is a over negative b, the negative sign is down with the denominator. You actually don't see this much, but it is equivalent if you put it in the numerator. The third way is if you put it out front, the negative sign, so that it's negative and then a over b. All 3 of these are equivalent. Negative signs can go on the top, in the bottom, or out in front. And it doesn't matter which one, they are all the same value. Now, when we're computing, when we're adding, when we're subtracting, we're typically going to use the one where the negative sign is on the top, because that will help us to when we're adding and subtracting. All right, so let's talk about adding like fractions. You've done this many times before. I'm just going to remind you that when you're adding fractions, you are finding common denominators. The only thing different that I'm going to add in today is negative numbers. So let's look at the examples. First one, we have 6/9 plus 2/9, already a common denominator. So we're just going to add the numerator. 6 plus 2 is 8. Denominator stays the same. So we have 8/9. Now, this one, the negative sign on these 2 are in the front. So I'm going to change it. So it's negative 2 over 5. Put the negative sign up front or up top, plus negative 1 over 5. Now, the reason I do that is because when you have same denominators, you're just going to add the numerator. So negative 2 plus negative 1, I go through my adding rules, same signs, add. 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 is bigger, so I make that my answer. My answer would be negative 3/5. All right, same thing, I'm going to put the negative sign up top. Same denominators already, so I look up at negative 3 plus 1, opposite sign, subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. 3 is bigger, and it is negative, so my answer is negative 2 over 7. All right, that's when you already have your common denominator, so let's talk about if you have unlike denominators. Before you do anything, you would just have to change it to common denominators before you add or subtract. So looking at question 1, our common denominator here would be 4. So I'm going to make both fractions with 4. That second fraction already has a denominator of 4, so I'm going to keep the numerator. This one, I'm going to multiply both of these by 2. So I have 2/4 plus 1/4, add the numerators, keep the denominators, and the answer is 3/4. All right, number 2, common denominator is 10. I'm going to fill this one in because it doesn't change. This one I'm going to multiply by 5. So negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Just keep the sign of that. So 9 plus negative 5, opposite sign, subtract. Take the sign of the bigger, which is positive. Now this reduces to 2/5. All right, next one. Common denominator is 12. This multiply by 4, so it's negative 4. This we're going to multiply by 3. So that's positive 3. Opposite sign, subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. 4 is bigger, 4 is negative. So it's negative 1 over 12. All right. Now let's talk about adding mixed numbers. When you are talking about mixed numbers, a lot of times I know you just want to add the whole numbers and then add the fractions. The problem is when you start to add negative numbers, it gets a little bit confusing and you can't always just add the whole numbers and add the fractions. So for this reason, I'm going to have you change it to an improper fraction all the time. So every problem that we do, we're going to add or change it to an improper fraction. Now, remember to do that, we're going to take the denominator times the whole number. So 63 plus 4 is 67 over 9. This one is 9 times 10 is 90, plus 2 is 92. Already a common denominator, so all we have to do is add the two numerators. So I'm going to do 67 plus 92 is 159. If you need to do that over on the side of the paper, that's totally cool. 159 over 9. Now we're going to change that back into a whole number. So 9 goes into 159 times. 9 goes into 159 how many times? So if we do the long division, 159 divided by 9 goes in once, goes in 7 times. So we have 17, 6 left over out of 9, which reduces to 2/3. I know it seems like a lot of work, but when you're dealing with negative numbers, that is going to be super helpful. All right, so let's look at this one. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 5 is 53 over 6. This would be 6 plus 1 is 7/3. Make a common denominator, which would be 6. So multiply by 2, you get 14. So 14 and 53 add up to 67. 6 goes into 67 11 times with 1 left over. We are actually going to stop there today. Your homework for this unit or for this module on day 1 is going to be just page 51, which is numbers 1 through 9 only. All right, we are going to finish this lesson tomorrow in class. Have a good day.